the AI will allow us to do more with a smaller team. So before, a big flex of a big company, a successful company is like your head count. Now, actually, I think the bigger flex will be, right, I can actually generate that with only this number of team members. So I think that's one of the things that actually will come from the AI more so than anything else, which is cool.
Yeah, I think that I think it's slightly different between a lender and a broker, because I guess, but I think but as for you guys as a broker, my view is that where are you adding value and making money? You're adding value and making money when you're having FaceTime with the clients, right? When you can either where you're able to do BD, or you're able to just talk to clients about what they need. And so the less time you spend doing admin and like kind of BS type stuff, which isn't really adding any value, it just means that you can spend more time doing that. Welcome to the Property Funder podcast. I'm your host, Michael Dean. You can find me on the internet at property_funder. I'm here with my good friend, Saam Lowni, who is the founder and director of Maryoaks. How are you today?
Best day of my life.
Best day of your life. Love it. Well, we last saw each other at your podcast, actually, back in May. That was a good fun experience. Although I don't know if you knew it, but I actually had a trapped nerve in my neck, so I was in absolute agony. But I somehow managed to hold it together with some painkillers and a bit of masking tape.
I had no idea. You did a great job. Yeah. I couldn't even tell. No,
I was watching the footage back, and I absolutely looked effed.
You've made the trip. It's out in Hampshire as well. So.
That wasn't far for me, to be fair. That was only around the corner for me, but it was all convenient. But how are things with you?
Very good. Very busy. Feel like that I can never catch up almost. I'm on that cusp right now. Maryoaks is doing great. We're growing the team. The property portfolio, I didn't do anything with it last year. This year, I'm not going to do anything with it. I promised myself 2 years off, although I have started looking at deals. But from next year, I will start buying. So I need to start getting to grips with what I'm going to be doing. And family life's good. The property people that you were on as well. It's like we're returning the favor now. You're going to have to come back on again, because I've been on with you now. This is the second time. And that's growing as well. Numbers are up and everything. So can't complain. Did the National Development Summit on Saturday. Like, generally things are good. I can't complain. There's a lot of bad stuff that goes on in the world if you switch on the news. Yeah. And I'm very grateful to be not part of any of that.
So, National Development Summit, talk about that. What was that? What was that like? What were you doing there? And what did you get out of it?
So we sponsor the Central London Property Network, which is a monthly networking event in London Bridge. It usually is the last Thursday. I think it's changed to the last Wednesday of every month. Anyway. The organizer there does an annual event which is called the National Development Summit, and that is over 200 property professionals, investors, developers, associated architects and contractors and surveyors and solicitors, etc. All congregate, and we do a bunch of talks and speeches and discussions. And Maryoaks is there exhibiting as well at the same time. So I interviewed Paul Higgs, who you may
I've heard of Paul Higgs, yeah.
So ex-land director of Barrett's Home, and award-winning developer. And I was on a panel talking about creative funding strategies with a bunch of experienced property investors and that are doing this stuff all day, every day, and that we support as well on the Maryoaks side. So. Yeah, it's just one of those, what better way to spend your weekend than talking about property all day? You do it Monday to Friday, you may as well go straight into the weekend and do it as well.
If anyone was in any doubt whether Sam loves what he does, I don't think you'd be left in any doubt now. I'm sure there are plenty of our audience who could think of lots of other ways they'd rather spend a Saturday. But you've got to do what you love, and I think that's the best thing. So, creative funding strategies. Did you pick up anything new there, or were there any interesting themes that came out of that? Like, what were the big takeaways?
No. So, every day is a school day, so I'm genuinely learning stuff on a daily basis. I would say it's when it comes to these creative strategies, we're talking about lease options, we're talking about assisted sales, we're talking about vendor finance, we're talking about exchange delayed completions, we're talking about options on and land parceling and in planning, etc. So a lot of this stuff's been there or thereabouts for quite a lot, but there's a lot of people that are moving into it, or they're new to the game, or they're in the middle of it, and they're picking up tips along the way. So nothing crazy new, no huge takeaways, I must admit. But I was interviewing Paul Higgs about sustainability. That was probably more interesting for me in terms of all of this fuss about net zero and sustainability. Do you get bang for your buck? Do you get a return on that investment? Because it usually costs you a little bit more to deliver it. And the short answer is not really. There's no significant premium. Yes, if you've got two properties that are identical, one of them's EPC-A, it might rent faster, it might sell faster, but there's no guarantee that you're going to get a premium on it.
No.
So the extra money that you save, the extra money you invest as a developer, you're not necessarily going to get it back in spades. So that was probably the biggest takeaway from everything that I was listening to and part of.
Oh, that sounds like still sounds like an interesting, diverse group of people, and not a terrible way to spend a Saturday either. So, yeah, that's really cool. In terms of last year, obviously we're early part of 2026 now. What did 2025 look like for you for Maryoaks as a business, and for you personally? How did the year play out? What was the good? What went well? What was the even better ifs?
So we did 60 deals in the last 12 months, and it was largely a team of just over 2 people, myself and George for the most part, and so that's got some quite good overall. I was quite happy with that on balance, but it was very, very hard, and we did try to add the odd person here or there along the way, and it didn't work very well. So whilst we're doing well on one side, the difficulty and challenging of finding somebody that's as passionate as I am, as hardworking, without being kind of like overly expectant on people to kind of like work evenings and weekends, because that's what I do. It's just the workload was pretty intense, and like either you get the work done, it's like sink or swim. Either you get the work done or you don't, and and if you can't do it, I respect that, but I've just got to find that person that can. And you're working with somebody that I've worked with in the past that I've been through something like that with him, and we just did whatever it takes to get the job done at the time. So I know that those people are out there. I'm looking for them. Unfortunately, at the back end of last year, we did find them. So Amandeep joined the team as well. And then towards the end of the year, Sashi's joined us as well, which has been great. She does all of our business relationship management. And we've got Jen and Chris who do case management for us as well. So yeah, generally the team has been growing, but so it started off very well in terms of good level of business. But that was also the hindrance because we just got really, really busy.
Yeah, I guess you've become a bit of a victim of your own success when you're in that sort of little cycle, aren't you? Where you've done a really good job of generating the leads, but then you've got to process them, and if you've got so much of your focus goes on processing the leads, which you have to do, you're working in the business, not on the business, and I guess that's the next step that you want to take, and it's just and I guess it's probably a common. It's a common thing for brokers of your size, right?
Exactly. And and now we've got a different challenge, which is we've just increased all of our overheads. So now that level of business that was good for us, very good for us, is no longer adequate, and we need to now step it up to the next notch. So Shannon, our marketing person, and Sashi and myself, who I do a lot of the business development, we have pressure on our shoulders to go out and generate the leads. Fortunately, it's already started working. Sashi's come on, she's really good. She's already got a great network of introducers from her previous place. So that's all going well, but then there's this little bit in the middle where actually there's a bit of a drain on the overheads, and you need to now deliver on those. So it's like a 2-3 month pain window of emptying the bank balance just to build it back up again. That's where we're at. So and then it'll happen all over again.
Yeah, it's like the challenges of it's the challenges of business growth, isn't it? That these are ultimately they're good problems, but it's like if you want to grow a business, if you want to kind of create that space for yourself where you don't have to be sweating your guts out slogging your guts out like 16 hours a day, 6 days a week, 7 days a week. These are the things you've got to do to have that kind of that quality lifestyle. So I do get that and fully appreciate that. In terms of like lead generation right now, that's the priority. Get that, try and get, basically fill the book up, get everyone absolutely, operating maximum capacity, and then you got to find more people.
Yeah, and just it goes on and on. The protection, we start doing protection as well, which is interesting, because we largely unregulated, bridging development, commercial, buy-to-lets, HMOs, service accommodation, hotels, anything commercial. All of that we do, and we really enjoy doing it. But the protection side of thing was something relatively new to me, and a lot of mortgage brokers that do residential home mortgage for consumer duty, you must offer that, and we never did that because we weren't offering residential mortgages. We've done some residential mortgages because some of our clients require it, and we can do it. But Amandeep comes with 20 years of experience in mortgages, buy-to-let, and protection, and so she was saying, Sam, like, we're missing a trick here. We've got all these great clients, all these loyal people, all these people that are happy to work with us, and have we asked them if they require any protection, if they want that? I mean, do you have life insurance and all that?
I do actually have it.
Yeah, exactly. So it's surprising. I mean, I'm 42, and I never really thought about it. And after you hear some of the stories of like the people that did have it and how well it served them, in a crisis situation, in a horrible situation, and the people that didn't have it in that same situation, and you start to use your imagination, it makes sense. So for me, the most important thing is, though, I do bridging development commercial because these are things I'm really passionate about, I know about, and I can only offer that service, sell that product if I believe in it, and if I know it inside out. And it's only because Amandeep really knows this stuff inside out, and she's of a similar age to I, and she feels that there is a duty, I think, to provide good quality services to people. And now that I've been going out speaking to people over the last 6 months about it, it's crazy how many people don't have it and they're interested. So I'm like, yeah, you know what? It's like a little bit of an add-on, and it just helps us grow because it's another string in our bow. And whilst we've got to increase the revenue, it's all well and good just finding new customers all the time, but that's not necessarily the only way to grow. Well,
I guess it's a lot easier to, I'm sort of spouting the bleeding obvious, but it's a lot easier to get business from a relationship or get extra revenue out of a relationship you've already got,
exactly,
rather than trying to have lots more first dates to kind of open those doors. So I totally understand that. And how effective has the podcast been for you in terms of both in terms of winning new business, but also converting some people onto the protection side as well?
We don't. I haven't really started talking about it because whilst we want to explore a new income stream and profit center, we're very wedded to our core competence, which is serving the investors and developers with all their property finance, and we don't really want to deviate from that too much until we're absolutely ready and we've got the capacity to. So building up the admin team, etc., has been much more important, and that's going well, to be fair. So now, literally, just as we've ended January, Amandeep and I have started talking about, okay, let's start talking about things like protection a little bit more, because if we were to generate those kind of inquiries, you've got now the capacity to be able to advise on that and this, and so that's where we're at with it. But with regards to the Property People podcast, it's a labor of love for the most part. Like it's, I think it's doing actually really well. Every time I check the counter, which is, let's say, once a week, the numbers are going up. And, and the most popular video, which was there for ages, is now a different one because like there's that compound effect, which I'm starting to see that hockey stick thing happen, which everyone talks about. So it's actually quite exciting. But in terms of, I think possibly we're not doing it very professionally, I must admit. We're not. And again, I'm not a protection advisor myself. Amandeep does that. I'm a property guy, I'm a finance guy, and I really know that stuff inside and out, and I'm really passionate about it. But when it comes to setting up podcasts or social media marketing and all these, I'm not. I basically just do it because I know that it kind of needs to be done, and start now, get perfect later. And if somebody wants to criticize me because it's not being done perfectly, which I do sometimes get from LinkedIn messages or Instagram, hey, I've noticed this channel's not doing very well. You've been stuck on these numbers for quite some time. Would you like to jump on a call with us? It's fair criticism, and it's probably right. And we could probably always be doing things better. But as long as the inquiries are coming in, as long as we've got clients to look after, that's the priority. And then the rest of it kind of almost takes care of itself. And as long as we're doing like 1% incremental gains, improvements along the way, I'm kind of happy with that.
Yeah. Well, listen, you've seen you saw you were in kind of level 2 of our podcast journey. So we'd migrated from a Teams chat to to the DIY setup in the office, and now you skipped number 3, and now you're in our newest studio. So so you can see the evolution of it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It starts. You're in level 2 right now, but I love the experience. I think it's a great show, and and I know that you've got a growing and loyal audience and fan base, and hopefully we can piggyback off the back of some of that as well for this as well. So
absolutely, I when I say it's labor of love, I genuinely mean it. I really enjoyed the conversation that we have, and everybody that walks through those doors, and wherever I've set up the studio, because it's been a little bit mobile now. We're a little bit settled in Fleet in Hampshire, but I genuinely love the conversations, and that's why I started doing it in the first place. Is I'd go out there to a networking event, for example, I'd meet somebody, and there's 100 people to meet. You get 10 different cards. You can't have meaningful conversations. So you'll meet them outside. You'll go for a tea or coffee, and some of the conversation was really interesting. So I just wanted to find a way to make it a little bit more purposeful. Set up a system. Set up a studio type. And the very first episode that we did. So all your episodes are still on. You can go back to see the first one?
Pretty much, yeah.
Because I've seen some people that they don't like I'm like, show the journey, or it's nice to see the journey at least.
It is, yeah.
And so you'll see the first one, which is my brother's living room in Hackney Wick with an old buddy of mine, Joel White, and really badly produced one camera. And it's all part of the fun. It literally puts a smile on my face, the conversation we had, the people we meet, and it helps us with a bit of credibility, I guess. But in terms of the lead generation, we could probably put more adverts in it, this, that, and the other. But we're working on all that.
You're working on that. I think at the end of the day, the way I look at it, I think, I'm a big. I don't know if we've had this conversation, but I'm a big fan of Gary Vee, and actually, I had, after a bit of a break of consuming his content, his podcast seemed to be on my rotation now, so quite frequently. And not that long ago, he was basically going, you're basically saying that the 2 things you have to do, or you're going to have to start doing, is that every business will have to have a podcast, and the other one was, they said you have to have like this would be a bit more of a tricky one, I think, but especially for more interpersonal business like ours, you have to have an AI avatar that is essentially represents the company. Anyway, that's by the by. But I think the podcasting is relevant because ultimately, if you think about what both of our businesses do, and as the growing march of AI and the AIification of every business, that even super specialized lending that we do, or the advice that you provide, it's going to become increasingly commoditized or commoditizable. And what's the differentiator? What's the brand differentiator? I think that's where you with Property People, with Property Funder, these are differentiators for our respective businesses that, I think a lot of our peers will turn their noses up at.
Hopefully, especially if it gives us a competitive edge, let them turn their noses up.
Yeah, but I guess that's the thing. I think that's what Daniel Dagger said to me years ago, when back in the V1 days, when I interviewed him over Teams, and he said, look, this is what's going to help you stand out. Because everyone's going to be able to do what you're doing, as in anyone can do what you do, lending business wise. But it's your personal, it's the brand, it's the branding, the brand association that's really, really valuable. Yeah.
So do you find that it helps you generate inquiries for Avamore?
I don't see. The thing is, I don't know, because I think with something we aren't. I think that's something we need to start getting better at in terms of measuring the lead generation. I think from a tangible perspective, probably it's hard to say.
Yeah.
In terms of the intangible, Like the fact that people are stopping me, I say in the street, that would be that would be lying. But people might be someone might stop me at the trade show and go, hey, I messaged the owner of a lender last week about something, and he said, oh, hey, how's it going? Yeah. Oh, by the way, I love the podcast. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, right, okay, interesting.
From a credibility standpoint, I think that's probably the biggest benefit that I've had in terms of people get to know you before they've met you, and they might take your call type thing.
Yeah. I think it doesn't do any harm, does it? That's for sure. This episode was sponsored by Avamore Capital. Ground up development, refurbishment, part completed projects, fast bridging. Avamore Capital backs you through every stage. Direct access to experts who understand your timeline and pressures. Fast decisions, clear communication. No shuffling between departments or re-explaining your deal. From foundations to exit, Avamore delivers the expertise and funding solutions to keep projects moving. Visit avamorecapital.com. But I suppose we'd start looking ahead for the year ahead. What are you excited about? Like, what are the things that what are your big plans, and what are the things that you're excited about?
One of the things that I've seen a little bit of an uptick is in development finance inquiries. Interestingly,
you are not the first person to say that to me in the last couple of weeks. Yeah.
And that's my main thing. That's what I get most excited about. That, having been part of a development finance lender. And being a developer myself, I really like that, and I found that really, really quiet. And almost, I've been getting so many of them. Truth be told, I felt a little bit rusty looking at some of them as well. And but I've been very, very happy to spend some late nights. Normally, I sit in my office at home, turn on some nice loud music, and I start running deal appraisals and looking at the sites and stuff and getting ready to go back to the client or preparing it for funders to be able to start looking at. And I missed that a little bit, to be honest, over the last couple of years, because it was really, really hard. So that's I think a good opportunity that I'm excited about, that's going to be changing over the next 12 months mostly. What else? I think just generally letting the team that we've got right now just bed in a little bit further. We've got a great spirit. I'm very, very blessed that it's not been easy. Like, we've had people come and go in the past, but now really George has been with me two and a half years. And he's aligning himself more so with the business, which is really exciting. I'm also interested to see how this AI stuff goes, to be honest. I'm quite interested. I think I might have spoken to you very briefly.
We had some. I was going to ask you about tech, but yeah. So how much are you using AI at the moment, and where do you think you can take it next?
We're not using it that much in terms of how much. I think that there's a potential that eventually roles like mine might be eradicated for the most part, because I think if you can call me up on the telephone and say, hey Sam, I've got this deal, eventually an AI agent will be able to do the same thing and pretty much scour the market a lot faster than I can. We work with over 200 lenders. It's impossible for me to memorize every single criteria point, and we use tools like Knowledge Bank, we use tools like Brickflow, we use tools like 27 Tech, we've got what's it called, there's another one as well, Broker, Broker, I call it Broker because I'm from up north. But yeah, so there's a whole bunch, and there's many more as well that I haven't mentioned, and I think that they're all very helpful, but I think in the new age, I think that most of those will become extinct or evolve.
Yeah, I think the evolutionary part is correct. I think your role or a broker's role in the short, certainly in the medium term, I don't have too many concerns. I think fundamentally, we work together on a. I say I wasn't that involved, to be honest. A bit like Jeremy Corbyn, I was present but not involved. We had a transaction last year, which we did last year together. That was not a simple transaction. Not that we had to take loads of views on the client, but let's just say that we had to. I think the strength of our relationship. Yeah. would have carried some weight in terms of, certainly you would have. It's like when I say it's like when the debate that we have sometimes around when a client comes to us directly, and the advice is not that I'm supposed to advise them, but my suggestion to them every time is like, look, yeah, I can give you terms, but you should really talk to a broker because, first of all, I'd rather be dealing with the broker because the broker will have done the due diligence, will have packaged the case up for us, and will manage clients' expectations accordingly. But from the client's perspective, like if there's a broker involved with a lender, the lender is the broker holds the lender far more accountable than a direct client ever can, because the amount of business that goes on between them will always be higher, and the essentially the consequences of not performing for that broker are more meaningful. So, look, in theory, everyone gets, it's like all customers are treated equally, but some are more equal than others, and the ones which are more equal are the ones, unfortunately, which are represented by brokers. And the better your broker relationship is with the lender, inevitably the better outcomes the clients will have in that situation.
Yeah, and I agree with that sentiment overall, and I think it is where we are right now. I'm just trying to think. I mean, it might be well beyond the time that we're retired that this all changes anyway, and hopefully so. But I do think that the facts and the figures and the data is going to get so intense, and so there's just going to be so much of it that generally underwriting decisions, arguably, when you look back at which portfolio of deals that were done with a human underwriter versus the one we're done with AI, you'll notice that actually on balance AI has probably done better overall and got a better loan book. And then so automatically your business decision becomes actually probability says that we should probably just focus on those sorts of things. And then that goes, I mean, I'd like to say that maybe I'm just telling everybody that AI is going to take your job so that brokers leave the market, retrain to do something else sooner rather than later to leave more for me. There is that as well.
You shouldn't have said the quiet part out loud. You raise a really interesting point there. I wasn't necessarily expecting a philosophical discussion, but here we are, and actually we'll be the better for it. So I think what you're saying about the AI portfolio or AI loan book will perform better, right? But the human loan book will make more money, and I'll explain why. Okay. And the reason why, in the short term, and the reason why is that the thing about AI or effectively technologically led decision making is, if you cast your mind back, and we are of a similar age to Little Britain, computer says no, right? And I think the difference is that if you have AI generated out decision making, you don't leave enough room, I think, for nuance. And so I think what will happen is, so Zaher always talks about a concept of type 1 and type 2 error. So type 1 error is basically poor underwriting, poor credit decision making. Type 2 error is actually being too tight on the credit. So it's essentially that the opportunity cost of being credit or risk averse. So I think that the ultimately, yes, a human generated, human oversight underwriter or case management system will have more losses, but because it's going to be originating so much more volume, that as long as you can operate within a reasonable loss ratio tolerance,
it'll say yes to more. Basically,
you say yes to more. So you'll ultimately make net more money. Yes, you'll have more losses, but you will ultimately make more money, and that will compensate for it. And I think, and what I'll add to it, obviously, with your credit fund background, obviously being a former colleague of Jacob's back in your days at Hilltop, you'll kind of appreciate this, which is that for many years we thought as a business that our zero credit loss, zero capital losses, and we thought that was the most important thing that we should talk to funding partners about. And don't get me wrong, I'm sure that they appreciate it, but actually, I think when we look at some of our peers in the market, who perhaps have got less rigid lending standards than our own, and may have taken more losses than we have, because of their ability to originate and underwrite substantially more volume, they would have been sometimes be more attractive to certain funding partners for whom volume was the priority, not
because they've got such a huge amount of capital, warehouse capital to get out the door.
Yeah.
They want to know that they're going to give it to somebody that can actually originate that level of business, and they expect you to have a little bit of default in there because it's just probability again. So yeah, you're absolutely right.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it from a private equity perspective, and I appreciate that for many of our audience that's not a world that they know or understand or even want to, but if you're a private equity or credit fund and you're effectively you're paid by your limited partners, your investors, based on assets under management, the priority is the ability to deploy volume and scale, not if you take you can take a small loss if the net result is making more money. So
So from that point of view, I tend to agree with you. So then I guess it's just size and scale of the businesses.
Yeah.
And if you're on the smaller side and you can't get the volume and you can't originate, then it'll be at your hindrance. But if you can do the origination well, then actually the future.
And I think that's the beauty of it is, I think you want to have, we want to have. I think it's not replacing the humans with tech. It's effectively using the tech to make the humans have more leverage, right?
And based on what you told me last time, well, two things. I think you can, that probability that there's an algorithm or that you can train it to say, one's on the margin, let it go through. It's like the offside rule, basically. It's like, let the goal happen. So you can do it that way. But I think also that if you are letting more deals happen, could it be? Is it? I can make more money, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I think also when it comes to origination underwriting, I think that we've just come out the back of a challenging couple of years in terms of the loan book asset management side of things. Not uncommon for development lenders. So we ended up with quite a large part of our book was, non-performing or in default. We've managed to reduce that down massively over the last 12 months. When we actually analyse back a lot of those NPLs or the defaults, they weren't the consequence of bad underwriting. I'm not saying that none were. There was a couple of deals where the decision making wasn't great, but actually it was how the loans were managed and actually the decision making in the life of the loan, which I think is as crucial, in development as it is as the actual underwriting execution.
As important. I would definitely say as important, because if you just switch off and think that the money is going to come back to you in 12, 18, 24 months, it's rarely like that. You've got to be able to forecast and see those things coming long before they actually hit you. Managing especially development loans. I mean, the bridging loans still, you need to be checking in where you're at with this, how you're getting on with that. If you've got something lined up well in advance, and if you're not doing any of that, then you're likely to come unstuck. Yeah. And just going back to the other thing that I remembered, one of the things that you told me on the last time that we spent together, the AI will allow us to do more with a smaller team. So before, a big flex of a big company, a successful company is like your head count. Now, actually, I think the bigger flex will be, right, I can actually generate that with only this number of team members. So I think that's one of the things that actually will come from the AI more so than anything else, which is cool.
Yeah, I think that I think it's slightly different between a lender and a broker, because I guess, but I think but as for you guys as a broker, my view is that where are you adding value and making money? You're adding value and making money when you're having face time with clients, right? When you can either where you're able to do BD, or you're able to just talk to clients about what they need. And so the less time you spend doing admin and like kind of BS type stuff, which isn't really adding any value, it just means that you can spend more time doing that. I think that you're probably going to see your workload or your efficiency not go up as much as, say, we can on the lending side, because so much more of what we do is process driven processing. But I still think that you're going to see massive productivity gains, notwithstanding that, because you're just going to be able to handle so much more business, more cases as a consequence.
So because from your point of view, from a lender's point of view, is it the origination or the underwriting or the loan management that's going to be what's more? What do you think is going to be helped with AI mostly or least?
Yeah, so I guess it's when we talk about AI or tech. So a lot of our tech is actually, we use the main use of AI that we're using in Avamore. So it's now not a massive secret, but we've built effectively a cradle to grave origination, execution, and asset management platform where we're now about 85, maybe 90% semi-automated or automated.
Amazing.
But the use of AI is really just in terms of data extraction, and just extracting key data fields, key pieces of data, and then that data gets fed into our system, and then we've built our own kind of. It sounds fancier than it is, but it's like an algorithm basically, that's decision making algorithms and whatnot. But I think the key thing for us is, I think the biggest time savings will be on the front end, or are on the front end. So, but we talk about time saving. There's actually two sides to it. There's efficiency, but the other side of it is predictability. And it's like, the more predictable we can make our processes, the more, the more someone like yourself can say with confidence to your clients, yeah, look, I know their system, I know their process. They've done all this work up front. They're confident the valuation is going to come out. They're confident the bill costs are going to come out. Let's go with them, because essentially, unless turns out you murdered your last 3 wives, I think we're good. I think we'll be good to lend. Yeah. So we can give you that confidence, but then there's also there is also an efficiency component of it, which means that we can do a £250,000 ground up deal, which almost no one else in the market can do, and we can do dozens of them a month in theory, because we've got the process. We've built the processes that enable us to do that. So that will add a lot of value. I think on the asset management, the loan management side, I think you're still always going to be slightly restricted. You are going to be slightly restricted by what each loan manager can process. But I think with the tech, you might take a loan manager who can process 40 drawdowns a month and move that or 40 cases at any one time, and that could go up to 60.
Yeah.
And I think you can also put in some additional risk management tools as well into that. So there's a lot there, but I think also what we can do too is make your life as a broker so much easier by giving you tools that you can, or giving you forms and tools that you can access that you can fill out really quickly, but also that we can make evergreen for you and your clients. So that you're not, so you've effectively the fact find, or the deal memo, we can white label that for you. We can already do that, kind of white label it for you, hand it back to you, and you can then fire that off to half a dozen other lenders and go, look, here's a detailed fact find with all the key information. Right, what's the best deal you can do?
I think anyone that can standardize that is going to make some good waves. Can you monetize it, or this is the problem that I've had with AI, trying to get involved in it in one way or another, seeing how we can make it work for ourselves, see if we can build something ourselves, which we've dabbled in, but it's just moving so quickly. And by the time you built something, there's already something that does it automatically anyway, that it's almost built itself. So I think that the ability to package an application in a software program of some sort that can be white labeled and then distributed, would you sell it? Would you give it away for free? Or you got to, yeah.
These are all good questions. And I think that packaging element, I think broker are actually doing that. I think they're sort of doing that as well. So
so Brickflow do it as well. So you can add all your things in, but then again, it's not a standardized one. So if you do through this application, and we use all of them because they're all slightly different. It's not like one size fits all, or there'll be certain lenders that are on the broker platform that are not on Brickflow, and vice versa. And then it's like, well, I want access to every single opportunity. That's why the clients come to us. And so, none of these platforms that are being commoditized and sold on are actually solving the problem wholeheartedly. So I'm not sure where. So that's why we're always thinking, what can we do that's slightly better?
Well, the point you make about AI, AI and technology moving on really fast, is a valid one. And I think that if I think about the advantage that we're creating for ourselves in Avamore through the technology, I know that advantage is probably going to be, it's in, as the technology itself as an out-and-out advantage. I think that's going to be, I say short-lived, but I think that by 2030, 2031, you could probably go to ChatGPT and or what other LLMs are available, of course, and it can probably underwrite that deal for you, by then, because we're talking about the speed of this evolution of the.
That's what I'm saying. That's what kind of worries me about getting involved in it, because you think all that time investment, all that money investment, is it really worth it? And I think that it is, but it's like where to start. As I said, we've dabbled on it, but before you know it, something else has happened where it's like, oh.
Do you know what the thing for me is that it might all be it might all be a waste of time, but what I'm finding is that it's opening up, by learning about technology, it's opening up new avenues and new opportunities.
Yeah.
In so many areas. So obviously we've got a commercial property portfolio, and we've got some. I mean, obviously, I actually mentioned one of those sites to you, which I think was kind of. Which we would for your own relocation, which I know was not really a practical solution for you, and
I ended up finding something for free, which was
well, I can't really compete with that. But we've got some suites that have been vacant for a while, and nothing wrong with the actual properties themselves. It's just it's kind of a combination of the market being a bit tricky, but also at the same time, I think commercial property agents they have not moved with the times. So you historically, particularly in office space, I mean, I started my career as a commercial agent, especially in offices in the City of London, and the way that market worked, at least then, and still in London, central London still does operate this way, but increasingly in the regions it doesn't, where you'd have a leasing agent representing the landlord, and then tenants. If you needed space as a tenant, you'd go and sign up with an agent who would act on your behalf as a sort of buying agent or someone to go and hunt for you. And so what would happen is the leasing agents and the hunting agents would get together in the pub, or they'd have there was a thing called the cityagents.com or westendagents.com, and that you'd put out a requirement which would circulate your requirement by email to all of the agents in that space, in that sector. They then flood that tenant's agent with properties available to rent, and then the tenant's agent would then put together a bit of a beauty parade. They'd go and do a load of viewings, and then the properties would get leased. And that system worked really well, and I think it's also operated at a regional basis as well. But the problem now is that tenants in more regional locations, and that will probably also apply to like where you're based down the south coast, and in our properties in Surrey, tenants, particularly for smaller suites, sub 2,000, 3,000 square feet, are increasingly not represented by agents, and they're going direct. They're going direct to the landlord's leasing agent, or not at all. And so, how do you get your spaces in front of these? How are you getting your spaces in front of these people?
And what's the answer? What are they
Well,
doing?
well,
Instagram.
I think the solution actually something I've been working on for the last week and a half is this property that we've got, one of the properties we've got, we think is absolutely perfect for healthcare, wellness, physios, osteos, that kind of thing. Our commercial agents have, because it's used Class E, right? So you've got a really broad range of occupiers. Exactly. You've got loads of car parking. It's a very discreet location. So, if you need to have some, like, let's be honest, certain medical treatments are sensitive. You don't want the warden's wife seeing you do that. So we know it's perfect, but our office agents have no idea how to access these tenants. So what I've done is again, through Replit, I've vibe coded effectively a mailing list of 1,200 people of 1,200 relevant businesses within a 10-mile radius who are solid potential occupiers for that space. And then we've got a website, we've got a mailing list, we've got mail shots ready to go. So we'll finally hit, like, these are mailing lists which we were having to pay for a third of the number of contacts, most of which were generic email addresses anyway. And for, like, we're having to pay like nearly as much as £1,000 for a mailing list like this. So we've got a mailing list 3 times the quality, and it's cost me, with API fees and stuff like that, 250 quid.
Decent.
But like, if I wasn't already doing the work in the tech space, I wasn't already in the tech space, I wouldn't have a clue how to do that.
It's what they say, activity breeds activity. So once you're busy doing something, like, the thing that you fall upon might not be the thing you started with, but you might fall upon something else which is actually more valuable or just as valuable, or something in that stratosphere. And actually, interesting that you talk about commercial, and you were talking about the next 12 months. I think over the next 12 months as well, commercial is something that is becoming more and more popular. Yeah. And I'm not investing anything. I've got to keep my hands, tied behind my back for a little bit longer, but all I'm looking at is commercial, and I think that there are great yields to be had, great returns to be had, but then there's a lot of difficulty and a lot of challenges with making sure that you can get the tenants. So what kind of commercial is the right one?
What do you think? What's taking your fancy? Yeah.
I like retail because it's literally in front of your face. You drive past it all the time. So, like, if you've got an office block that's tucked away somewhere in an office park, people don't see that. So if they ever want it, they've got to go and find it. They've got to know that it's there, and you've got to do a little bit more marketing around it and be smart about it. But for retail, it's always right in front of you, and it always has some kind of value. I know that we see a lot of it vacant, and I think for that reason you can find good deals, though. And then the trick is, though, being kind of coming from an agency background myself as well, and being a broker, being the middle person, you try and line up the tenant before you buy it almost. And if you're able to do that, then you kind of buy them at like 10% yields as a vacant possession. But then you can refinance it with a good covenant at a 7 or 8, and make a bit of money that way. And then it's the long term. I just love commercial because of the long term rental income. You can get 5, 10, 15 FRI leases. I mean, everything about residential right now just really just makes me tired thinking about it.
Yeah, because I guess that kind of HMO, HMOs is one thing, and that's obviously being really popular. But traditional buy-to-lets, I think the intensification of the regulation of residential, I can understand why a lot of people, unless you've got a massive portfolio and you've got a dedicated in-house property management team, and you can only do that by having size of portfolio that justifies it. Yeah, if you're a semi-professional landlord, I don't want to say amateur, I can totally understand why you wouldn't want to do that. But yeah, commercial is not without risk, and I think you've got to have if you need to go into it in an informed way. Like, if you go into commercial expecting that you're going to be able to rent the property tomorrow, ignoring, because people forget about the rates, how brutal rates can be, service charge costs. And then, so you got those two to consider, plus the fact that you've got no income potentially for a long time, if you can't find the tenant. It's like, commercial can either be really successful if you do it well, or it can be a very expensive mistake. Yeah,
exactly. No, I think the only way that I would end up doing it is if I can marry the two up pretty much from the get-go. So I've got to do a whole bunch of research and have conversations with those agents, either I'd taken something that's a going concern, which I'm kind of happy to do as well.
Yeah.
That's got already a 5, 10, 15, 20 year lease on it. And I have seen some stuff come up, and the yields are already like 8.5%, which is not like with like co-op funeral.
Yeah,
like,
that's a good covenant as well.
I'm saying, yeah, for 8.5%, I'm pretty impressed. But then I'm thinking, can I get maybe a little bit better if I add some value along the way?
Are you looking at retail? Would you be looking at retail with uppers? Maybe with uppers that you could convert, or maybe which already have resi there, so then you can kind of go down the semi-commercial mortgage route.
Both have merit, and I'd prefer all commercial to begin with, because then I can add the value later. But then I do appreciate that what you were saying before is that, if you've got the residential above, then at least there's some income coming in, which is going to cover some of the mortgage. But also, I'm thinking about not levering up, just like having because you're right. If you've got service charge, but you certainly have business rate if it's vacant, and then if you've got interest and finance costs, which on commercial, I know that they're not the cheapest in the market.
No.
That can really, really brutally kind of take you out. So I'm thinking about starting unencumbered to begin with, or very, very, very low LTV, so that you don't have to worry about that.
I've actually got a building. I've got a building where the tenant's going. I say the tenant's going. They've got a expiry in. They've got expiry coming up in September. We already extended them by a year once. I've got planning for 19 units on it. But
nice.
But
do you know any good development lenders?
Yeah, I know. I'll see if I can get someone to eat my own dog food. The difficulty is that we're probably not the best suited to build it, although if we push, we might. But I think we need to look. We need to look for someone to buy that development site off us. But I think at the moment the residual, it's very hard to get the residuals to stack up, because the time we bought it, we probably paid a bit too much for that particular building. So the other thing that I'm looking at is, maybe we'll get an extension out of these guys. Hopefully the dilapidations bill comes in and they decide that they'd rather not move.
Change their mind, stay forever.
But the other thing, so if they do decide to go, the thing I'm actually looking at is going down the serviced office route, because, particularly in that location, you've got Regis 2 doors down, so we know there's a good demand from the office occupiers. In fact, it's in Staines. There's actually Regis have two sites in Staines, so gives you a sense of
Staines is a busy place.
And then there's some independent operators in the town as well. You think, okay, fine. Well, I think maybe there's some scope here. And I think also the way that people occupy offices in particular is changing.
Yeah, and that's I'm not a big fan of office because of that sort of thing. Unless I already run HMOs, which are incredibly intensive, and I've started moving a bunch of those into social housing actually.
Yeah, because then at least you just have 5-year lease with the local authority.
It's like FRI almost, and you don't have any voids. You don't have to pay the bills, so the margins are much better. It's kind of why I got into HMOs in the first place, but with interest rates that have gone up, and with the utility bills that have gone up, and with the fall in how many students are coming back, none of it just made any sense anymore. So the only way to make it work, and like I said, you're semi-professional or full-time landlord, and there's not that many full-time landlords out there. They've normally got something else going on, even if you've got a whole bunch, and even if you've got if you know what you're doing in that space, it's hard to just live 100% off a property portfolio unless it's quite sizable.
HMOs have been like the hot ticket
for
years, right? And we've seen a big rise in the number of, a lot of our refurb deals have effectively had an HMO end use, or sort of HMO exit type of use. Do you think we sort of reach peak HMO? I mean, obviously, as an expert, you're definitely more knowledgeable than me.
I think that there is. I think that's a good way of putting it. Have we reached peak? Yeah, I think most areas are Article 4, which is telling. Even I've got a bunch of properties in Medway and Kent and Gillingham, and so much of it is already and they're just bringing out the Article 4 now. So many HMOs have been created, and I think that that's most of the country now. But there are still a lot of people I know that are doing HMOs, and so I don't think that we are necessarily it's all dead and done and nobody should be doing them. I think that there are more to be done for sure, but I think we've definitely hit the peak, and I think we're coming out the other side where there's just going to be the kind of HMOs that you're doing now. They'll be secondary. You've got the ones all in prime university areas and stuff. All that's been done, and there's still opportunities within that as well. So you can take somebody's HMO that's already got the license in place, that's already got the planning approved in an Article 4, and then you can maybe enhance it because you can upgrade it. You can put more en suites in. You can extend it and add a few rooms. So there is further development to be done, but we're past the peak.
Yeah,
I think so. And like we don't really want a whole country where everybody's living in a room. Bedroom. I think we want to try and to not have that happen, but at the same time I think it has solved the problem where affordability is getting harder and harder for young people. But
I think it's more a symptom than a solution though in the long run, right? I think at the end of the day, like what we really need to do is provide more private homes and more affordable homes for younger people, rather than making people share almost rooms with share houses with strangers well into their 30s. You know what I mean, like that?
Yeah, exactly. I think what's happened is good, and I'm pleased to be part of the solution. And a lot of our clients, I'm pleased that they're part of that solution, and I think that has a place. But there is a bigger problem, which is we need to build more affordable housing, more housing to increase the supply, to at least suppress prices to a certain extent. And hopefully there's apparently some changes happening to the MPPF. I was speaking to a developer at the National Development Summit, really good guy, one of our clients, and he's got a site right now where he's got one house on the site, planning approved. He wanted 2, and unfortunately they said no. But if these changes that they're suggesting happen in the MPPF, he'll be able to get 8 houses on that same site.
No way.
Yeah, so it's like such a huge gulf. It's like 1 is fine, but 2 isn't. But if we tweak this, that, and the other, suddenly we can get 8 on it.
Right, make that make sense.
and I think that that is the I think the Article 4 and everything at HMO is great, and the PD stuff that's happened as well. We have had a lot of commercial that's just unused, and people have changed the way that they live. So that's all understandable. But I think that we need to take our foot off the gas take a foot off the brake a little bit for the planning approvals. And one of the biggest things that a few people said actually was these committee meetings. These people that are stakeholders in the local community, so you can understand, but they're not qualified in town planning. They're not qualified in demographics of the nation and the socioeconomic situation of millions of people. They're literally just putting their finger in the air, going, "No, I don't really fancy it today." Yeah, and
I think it's a bit like they're just classic NIMBYs, isn't it? Right, and the funny thing is. There are very few people in this country who would tell you that we don't need to build more houses, but the vast majority of them just don't want them where they live.
Not that.
Yeah, and I kind of I sort of understand it. I understand it, but I mean, look, if we talk about, you were talking about like the rise in the development inquiries and appetite.
Yes.
What sort of schemes are they? Are we talking about big flatted schemes? Are we talking about SME house builder infill, sort of 1 to 9s, or what do they look like, or a range?
A little bit of a range, but certainly more house schemes. Fortunately, that's been I'm working on one right now, which is a 40-unit scheme in West London.
40, do you say?
Yeah, 40 in West London.
Well, that's actually quite ambitious because schemes of that size in that location, probably the last couple of years, there's been more limited appetite to get starts going on that. So
yeah, I mean, from memory, only 13 of those are flats, so it's majority a housing scheme, and that's pretty good. But then we've got other schemes. One of the ones we're working on right now with Avamore to get approved is 15 flats in Reading, for example.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit of a mix, I would say. You've got and I think that all that has but I do notice an appetite for more houses in general.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to live in more houses. I think still from the hangover from COVID and no outdoor space flats, there's still
people want space now, don't they?
Yeah, exactly. So that's been the general trend. It's still early days, and I think that it will continue to improve. We've got another one flats are easier to get approved as well. Like, you can get more dense.
Oh, you mean in terms of planning, or
well, no, so sorry, not approved, to get them to stack
right
in some ways. Just on a piece of paper, because you can get more units in it. The GDV per square foot is usually a little bit lower than what it might be for a house. And for tighter sites, you can get more units into it. So developers lean towards that, whether rightfully so or wrongfully. I've got another one in Gravesend, which is literally slap bang right next to the station, and he's got planning approved, but it's all flats as well. So,
but will the exit be on that stuff, a rental exit on that, or will that be for private sale? Because I guess the difficulty with flats at the moment is the sales are tricky, right?
Most people are saying that we're going to sell a portion, whereas before, like the chap in West London, he'd like to hold on to the flats and then sell the houses. I
suppose that stacks. If he sells all the houses, then the yield on the flats will be pretty good, I guess. So
yeah, exactly, and good values. And yeah, I mean, with that saturation rate, selling all the houses, he'll have paid off his senior lender as well.
Yeah, for sure, no question about it, right? So, that sounds that sounds encouraging. And aside, so we've covered business, but aside from that, how's life otherwise? When you're I appreciate you didn't see a lot of your family this weekend after going to your summit, but
my wife's incredibly supportive. I've got a 5-year-old daughter. She's amazing. Yesterday I was with her playing tennis. I'm teaching her to play tennis so that I've got someone to play tennis with, which is good. I'm also teaching her how to play ukulele, so I have another band member for my one-man band at the moment. And yeah, I love family life. I absolutely love spending time with my wife, my kid, and our associated friends. And now actually we're having more friends because the daughter's got friends and she's got they've got parents, so we hang out with those sometimes on weekends. Life's great, man. Honestly, I genuinely love living. I really do. I'm very grateful. I actually come from Iran. I know that's like, there's lots.
I was going to say, I wonder if that came up. Yeah, it's quite topical at the moment, isn't it? Right, the stuff that's going on over there.
It's all I can say is life's unfair, and Bill Gates once said, "Life's unfair. Get used to it." And largely, I agree with that. Yeah. But then there's some injustices in the world that really, really are tough to swallow and accept. And I came to the UK as a 1-year-old. I was a baby when I came over, and my life's been absolutely brilliant ever since. Like, the UK and England, when I go abroad and people ask me where I'm from, I say I'm English, because I genuinely am. I come from this place, and I'm very, very grateful for everything that this place has given me. And I've seen my cousins and uncles and aunties and stuff struggle. They're either prisoners in their own country because, I mean, I don't know if we want to get into all this.
No, but the floor is yours, man. The floor is yours.
The passports don't, nobody wants to accept an Iranian passport, whereas, British passport, you can go everywhere. And then, in that particular country, the income halves by 50% or whatever, every 10 years because of devaluing currency. Honestly, I could jump on a soapbox right now and talk about this quite a lot because it's obviously quite close to my heart. But ultimately, I think the most important part is that in the UK, a lot of people talk about going to Dubai or talking about, the government's done this, or, Keir Starmer's that. And I just think, wow, we got rid of Boris Johnson because he had a garden party. Yeah. And you know what I mean? He got sacked because he had a garden party. And rightfully so, because he told everyone else to stay, which is fair. But Jesus, there's some serious, foul play, offsides that you can find in other places. And all of this is, I'd like to say at the back of my mind, but, sometimes with what's going on in the world, it comes to the forefront. And I just, I started the podcast saying that, today was the best day of my life, and it genuinely is. Tomorrow's going to be even better, and the best is yet to come. And I feel a duty to live like that because I don't want to be ungrateful, because I've got my cousins that follow me on Instagram that I might watch something like this. And if I'm being all doom and gloom and like, oh, woe is me, and life is hard and it's not fair, considering the comfort that I live in and the opportunities that I've had, it just wouldn't feel right.
Mate, well said. I think a perfect place to end today's discussion on. Listen, thanks for listening. Always a pleasure to come and see you, or for you to come to see you. And
well, you're going to come back
It's only half an hour down the road from me to Fleet. So yeah, anytime.
We will.
Anytime, and I look
And it'd be
forward to
good
it.
to get Jacob on as well, and I catch up with him properly.
No, I think well, you get him on before me. If he's a far more interesting character than I am. So, Sam, as I said, thanks so much for coming on. Where can people find you if they want to reach out?
So the website is www.maryoaks.com. LinkedIn, type in my name. Instagram, type in my name. Facebook, type in my name, and you should come up.
Nice. We'll love that. Well, I've been Michael Dean. You can find me on the internet at property_funder. Thanks, as always, to Avamore Capital for their continued support of the podcast. Thank you to Matt for his help on the technical side. Thanks to Davina and Versta for help in production and editing. And we'll talk to you again on the next one. Thanks, and bye-bye.